Welcome to
What's a block?
Triple Blockheads,
Back set. Block down.
the podcast for all things volleyball.
Blockhead!
Aloha and welcome to another episode of Triple Blockheads. Mark, Frank, Makani, and we mentioned this in virtually every single episode. Watching film is beneficial. So we're going to go ahead and dive into an entire episode about watching film. And more specifically around, as an individual player, as an athlete, how can I really pick out some cues from a technical perspective, from an IQ perspective, from a decision-making perspective, and how can I integrate that film watching session into being more productive, more successful on the court? And that's the name of the game here. So let's just talk a little bit more about kind of general tips and general format on just how to watch film successfully, Mark.
I think initially players don't watch as much film because they, don't know what to watch, don't know how to manipulate the video in the way that they want. So there's some barriers initially that we got to kind of overcome. I think first, most beneficial way to watch film is from an inline view. So if your club can provide that, your high school, college, if you use volumetrics, let's try and make sure that we're watching from an inline because you can see all the things. Okay, if you get an angle view, maybe you can't see the entire side on the other side of the court, depending on what you're trying to focus on watching. It might not be as useful in that moment. So let's get to the inline for that. Two, I think it's got to be easy to stop, right? So if you're watching film on YouTube, you can press the space bar, that'll stop. If you arrow, it skips 5 seconds ahead. Those are useful increments if we're trying to jump back and forth. So know how to manipulate your video to stop and start when you want it to see the things that you need to. I think that's important as well. Overall, keep it short. Keep it to 1 or 2 skills. I'm not like when we watch film with our players, we try to keep it 15 minutes or less if we're doing individual stuff. And then I would love to be able to take what we just watched, go walk through on the court a little bit, and then move on. So try and keep it brief. Stay focused on a specific thing. I'm going to watch my approach mechanics. I'm going to watch my decision making as an attacker, and I'm going to work IQ stuff. But if you just try and watch film, you're going to watch the ball. And then we're not getting as much out of this as we could. So come with a goal in mind, what you're trying to get. That will help you keep it brief and on target. It will make it all feel less overwhelming, and you'll actually feel like you get stuff out of that. So I think all of those are important. I think once you actually start the watching process, some ground rules that we want to start or lay out there, eyes off the ball, okay? If you need to be watching you or the defense or the block or whatever element, but most of the time you don't need to be watching the ball. I would say pause frequently and at contacts, right? Especially if we are talking about attack rhythm, right? Am I on my first step when the setter has the ball? Let's make sure we pause when the setter has the ball. Check if we're in the right timing element that we want. Same thing from a defensive perspective. If your coach is talking to you a lot about being stopped at contact, let's pause at hitter contact. Am I stopped and balanced, or am I moving, right? Instant feedback in those scenarios, but there's a lot to be learned from those little snapshots or checkpoints, I'd like to say, throughout a play. Am I in the spot I should be? Am I balanced in the way that I need to be? So be able to stop, pretty simple, okay? And then we touch on this again, but stay focused on your goal. And if you start to derail or get distracted by other things, the player fell down on the other side of the net, let's try and regroup into what's happening. That's always like the biggest challenge for me when I put together film for our team is it'll be a play, and then where I choose to pause it to talk about whatever I'm doing, this kid is in a crazy body position, and all the girls are like looking at this kid that's almost upside down on the ground, and I'm like, that's not why it stopped, but all right, everybody take 30 seconds and let's laugh at this kid, and then let's refocus and get back to what we're trying to do.
That's so true.
Yeah.
I think another thing that I find really helpful in watching film is is when you watch film relative to when the activity happened, right? When the game happened, when the practice happened. I mean, obviously we talk a lot about training and then like instant feedback, that instant playback. But you can do that even in a match setting, right? You had a match last night. I'm going to watch it today. Most athletes can put themselves back into those games within that period of time.
Yeah.
And I think that becomes that visualization of that moment. When you pause and you see that snapshot, you can then put yourself into that moment and say, what was I seeing, and what was my path of decision making?
Yep.
And I think that helps a lot to then see it in a snapshot, because it doesn't stand still when you're actually happening in the game.
Yeah. I think that range is dependent on the person also. Some people have like a weak recall or can remember then. Some people are better at just like letting it all go. And I've had both of those scenarios with players where there's like, honestly, I don't remember what happened. I don't remember what I ate for lunch yesterday. So there's no way I remember this swing from two matches ago. You know what I mean? So got to kind of play to your audience. But if you're the one watching it yourself, also know your limitations. If you're watching and trying to gain IQ and don't remember the actual scenario happening, that's okay. Just realize we're only going to get X out of this versus X, Y, Z. Still beneficial.
I think it's so great for young athletes to hear that, club athletes, young high school athletes, because I think any video stuff they're doing right now is to put together highlight videos, and they're just clipping out all the good swings, the good results of what they did. And a lot of the programs right now, you can just go into the program, pick your video, isolate just your kills, and it just shows you all your kills. It doesn't really show you the process in which you got there. So I think immediately athletes, you have to make your highlight videos. You got to send coaches film. I totally get that and respect that. But can you rewind 10 seconds before that to see where was your first step in transition, or whatever the situation was that you're highlighting? Like, what got you there? And let's take the time to appreciate that, so we can keep repeating that. And I think that's where film right now is being the most used by the club kid, is making their highlight films and really going through the stuff that Mark just talked about.
Yeah. I have two other simple keys to just overall efficient video. Is one, write stuff down.
I was literally, what just came to my head. I was like, oh, you should probably have a notepad. Do this.
Both just to say, what am I looking for? So that you can continue to remind yourself what I'm looking for. Because we're humans, and you're going to get caught up in the volley game, and you love volley. You're going to kind of, what was I looking at again? So write down what you're looking for, then write down what you're seeing. And then, this is hard, but you're watching film to individually develop, but feed yourself with what you're doing well too. So if you see yourself doing something good, you can say, hey, I did this well. How do I repeat that? Like, I want to see that and do that well more often.
Yeah.
A lot of times you can get caught up in the opposite of the highlight film, right? Is just filling yourself with negative thought and negative energy. And it needs to be kind of a yin and a yang.
Yeah.
See your opportunities, celebrate your wins, and continue to develop.
I think there's an important self-talk component to watching film that you're trying to learn from, right? There's going to be things that you don't do well, especially if you're working on a hard skill, being stopped and balanced at contact. Well, you're going to see a bunch of different attack contact points, and you might only be stopped 20-30% of the time. That can be like, oh, I'm doing a terrible job, or look at how much I'm not stopped. Can we flip this into the affirmative or the future action of how I'm going to be? I think that's an important way to approach your self-talk as we're going
can you pick up a key that you can take into practice? I need to start looking for this because I saw that on film. Can I pay attention to this one little timeline component that I can maybe try and grasp more in practice?
And when you do it in practice, again, celebrate that win. Like, hey, I came in here with something that I found in film, and I did it and applied it in practice. You know what? Other thing too, tell your coach what you saw in film and say, hey, I want to try to do this in practice. I want to emulate what I saw in film as an opportunity. Can you help me identify this too? Because sometimes, again, these young athletes, they're playing the game, and sometimes it's hard to differentiate those pieces of those actions and those movements or whatnot that may not be ending of plays.
Yeah.
They get lost in the rally sometimes.
Yep.
And I would say for me as a coach, if a player comes up and is like, hey, look for this is something I want to focus on, I'm putting a lot of attention on that because the player took the initiative and has done some work and like knows what they're trying to get out of it, where I might not have noticed that one little technical thing that they are seeing if they don't have that conversation with me. But if they do, I'm doing it. You know what I mean? Like your feedback loop is going to happen if you can approach it in that way.
And I think for most situations, it's something that's happening before you touch the ball or before you're about to have the ball. So I think that's a good place to try and discover those items. It's probably not something you're doing when you have the ball. There's probably something we can be doing, defense, attacking, setting, before the ball is close to you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So a lot of this is just set up and overall just like rules of the road. Because what we want is your individual film session to be successful, motivating, and help you continue to develop and not the detriment. So let's break these down and some tips and tricks around what we're looking for specifically in kind of groupings of skill sets. So Frank, maybe a little bit around attacking. What are some of the things that you're watching from a technical perspective and from film?
Yeah, if I'm an attacker and I'm watching myself attack, I want to first understand the situation that we're in. Are we in serve receive? Are we in transition? And then from there, is the pass good or is the pass off the net or am I the one passing it? And I think from there, that's going to tell you a lot about what we probably want to prioritize in watching our process before attacking. If we're in transition, for example, and the dig is 15 feet off the net, I want to look at how I'm transitioning. Am I transitioning as if it's an in-system ball, or does my team have a tactic for me transitioning a little bit deeper or a little bit wider, or whatever you guys work on? Am I identifying? Can I see if I'm identifying the pass and positioning myself before approach to be in a situation where I have a longer runway to go approach on for that pass? That's probably the initial thing.
I love that, and that leads right into pausing at center contact, right? And then we're into our tempo. If we're a 4-step approach and we try and be 2 steps in at center contact in system, like those are all really good timing checks, right? If the timing is right or the rhythm of your timing is right from that pause position, now we can eliminate timing as the issue for whatever happened as a result to that swing, right? If the timing's good, now it's one of these other circumstances, and it'll help you kind of refine what area we need to improve and keep us specific in that element. I think that's an important one. I think the other piece that I like is I like to pause at takeoff from that hitter and then put my cursor right where that mark is and then play and then see where they land. Am I really broad jumping? Am I getting my feet to that ball and being able to attack high? And I think watching the swing multiple times over, like I'm probably going to watch it full swing once or full speed once. I'm going to watch it pause at center contact, take off, land. You know what I mean? But find ways to break up and see all the things that you want to see and go through those checks for you. If you're really focused on feet to ball stuff, we got to pause and see, like, am I really broad jumping? Did I feel like I got my feet there? Did it correlate to that high contact that I'm looking for? Did I hit it in the tape? You know what I mean? There's a lot of self-checks that happen that you can see through film if we're focused and pausing at the appropriate times to get the information, right? The quick checks rather than having to watch that play 30 times and be like, well, I broad jumped a little bit, but I'm not sure, right? Can we pause and make sure the rhythm, the timing, everything's good, and then move on from there?
If you don't know what to look for, go ahead and refer back to our attacking episode, which we highlight a lot of those skills and break down those. Honestly, though, I think that those elements of attacker, I think, are really what you want to be looking for. I also I think what you mentioned a little bit is sometimes we focus on, hey, we're going to look at all the serve receive rotations. Like, make sure you're focusing on coming from different places, right? So whether it's in serve receive or not, or maybe it's in transition. Hey, I came in and dug a tip, and then where did I go? And how did I get from point A to point B? Or, hey, I was playing defense and perimeter, and it wasn't me versus it was me. Yeah. Those are two different things. How early am I identifying that ball that isn't me so I can go in transition? Because every single split second and every tenth of a second matters for your ability to be successful in that next contact. So What else around attacking can you look at when you're watching individual film, Mark?
I think one of my favorite technical checks, and we talk about this with our pin hitters all the time, is we want to be unscoutable. In order to be unscoutable, when I go to jump and attack a ball, I need to be able to hit multiple shots, right? That's going to make sure the full range of the court is open. They have to stay, right? They're not allowed to, the defense isn't able to shrink the court one way or another because I can only hit one thing. So as I'm coming up and drawing, I'm probably pausing right here, right before contact, to see, am I in a balanced position where I feel like I could hit line, I could hit sharp, I could go deep 5, or I could tip, right? Go through your checklist and feel like, yes, my body position allows me to do that. If we're in a situation where I'm falling this way and my shoulder's down and I'm here, we probably don't have that full range. Okay, now I'm going to backtrack what part of my approach or tracking or feet to the ball allowed me to be in this body position that didn't let me hit all the things that I'm trying to do. I think as an attacker, range is one of the most important things as you continue to progress, right? If you get to our level and you can do 2 shots, I'm going to shut down your 2 shots. You know what I mean? So you got to be able to do the gambit of things. And I think at an early age, not enough emphasis is being put on being in a body position in the air where you can do multiple things. So that's an important self-check that you can put on yourself while you're watching.
Yeah, that's great. And I think we get to the point where you're watching and you've really focused a lot on just the technical piece of it. How can I make sure that I'm putting myself in the right opportunity to be successful? Then I think you flip into the next part of it, which again is a separate focus, right? You're not going to look at these simultaneously, but a separate focus on your decision making or your IQ in that moment. I think it's sometimes good to see what your decision was when you weren't in a good position. Say, hey, what could I have done and what did I do? Did I just chop it to 6? What else could I have done in that situation, right? To stress them, even though I wasn't where I want to be.
Yep. I think those bad ball situations are probably the most important ones to reflect on. And if you have a kid that can pull to those memories, that recall, they can learn bad ball situation really fast from that, just reflecting on that situation. I was falling back. All right, I'm falling back and maybe I'm a touch outside the court. Can I chop it to 1? Probably not. What can I do that's going to stress the defense still? And I think talking about bad ball stuff can directly lead to controlling rallies longer, end up more positive points. You're not going to score on those balls, but you can stress a defense in a way that's going to allow you to be in system on the next.
Yeah, I think as coaches who pride themselves a lot on stopping hitters with good defensive schemes, I think as an attacker, watching your decision making, watching it in order, like the whole storyline in order, watching your swings from the beginning of the match. Did you have early success? Did they make an adjustment on you? Were you able to identify the adjustment, or did you keep playing in to what they wanted you to do? And what keys can you maybe see that are going to probably happen in a match if you find early success swinging down the line? Like, can you be 1 or 2 steps ahead of all your in-system swings based on what you think a team's going to do after you have some early kills down the line or whatever the situation may be? So just maybe trying to watch those attacks in order from beginning to end of the match and seeing if you can pick apart some of the adjustments a coach might do in the future against you.
I think an important piece of that is where the attention goes when we start talking about IQ stuff, right? And it shifts from off of us and what we're doing and more what you're seeing, right? What the block is doing, what the defense is doing, but your eyes need to shift through the net, right? When we pause at contact, like if we're focused technically, I'm determining can I hit all the things? If I'm focused IQ or decision making, I'm saying what are the things I should hit in this scenario?
Yeah.
Right? Pause. Where's your block? Do you have a seam? What's off block doing? Where's middle back relative to their defensive scheme? And then where's my shot output? And if you can ID the defense that they're in, now we can draw those parallels the second that we ID in real life. Okay, they're in perimeter. I know this is my out shot. I'm going to take out that outside hitter. They're not going to be able to transition to hit. That's their best player. So I think allowing yourself to learn through observing defense and block, That's what's going to help the IQ piece more than focused on self or watching the ball.
I mean, use the benefit that video allows us to do, and to your point, is pausing and letting yourself take the moment as long as you want that moment to last. That's something unique about film that you can't get in real life, that you can apply just by learning as much as you can in the moment to then apply in the real life. Putting yourself in those situations more and more and more will create that, that faster evaluation of what you need to do from a decision-making perspective. So that's attacking, right? So what about blocking? Frank, when you talk about technical, what are you looking individually? And maybe you start with pins, and maybe Mark will go to middles around just technically what we're looking at from blocking.
Are you blocking? I mean, this is great. If you just listen to our blocking podcast, this is a great one to listen to on film, because now you can just go double check the things that we think are important to blocking. Are you setting up in a space that is going to prevent someone to swing through? Are you does your spacing look good from the net? Are you blocking angle and not flying out to the line? If that was the plan, that play, if you're able to recall that scheme for that match. And then what is it's not really blocking, it turns into transition, but what does your first couple steps look like after you land? Are you being efficient off the net, or are you doing multiple steps to get to a space where you could have gotten in one step?
Mm-hmm.
I'm all about efficiency. I think that is huge watching film with middles, especially because, every middle has landed, turned and looked, and then got pushed by a setter to get out of the way. You know what I mean? So can we land and pop off at least one step? Can we land and create space in a way that allows you to be an option? I think all of that is really important from a technical standpoint. The first thing I do with middles watching film is see how they reset. Okay, if you reset to the net and you're standing up, pause. Are you in an athletic position?
Yeah.
No. Okay, we need to work on being loaded right away, because what if this middle's up right now? What if the setter who's front row is going to turn and swing? Are you ready for what's coming at you? That's a huge one just in general, and kind of a pet peeve of mine is like middles just get to the net and then they stand there. I'm like, what? You got to do stuff now. Like, you have a hard job. You got to get pin to pin. We got to see all the stuff. Like, let's be athletes. So that's probably the primary from the block. Then I'm going to look reaction. I'm probably pausing at setter contact, seeing what my first step looks like. Am I putting myself in an athletic position? And then I'll watch my close move and what are my hands doing when I get above it, when I get above the net. The thing I like to do, if you have the capability to do frame by frame or slow-mo, is how quickly am I getting my elbows locked through the net once my hands are above the net, right? I think the correlation between elbow locking and hands above the net, that has to almost be simultaneous if you want to maximize the length that you're through the net and block duration, I guess. As you shift a little bit more to the IQ piece, right? As a middle, we're trying to always look at how do we get ahead of the play, or how can I get a head start? So I'm probably looking, I'm going to pause at like apex a dig and see if this is a situation where's the ball? Is it tight, or is it coming tight? Is it off the net? Is the setter already sprinting back towards the end line, right? What's the earliest opportunity I feel like I can start going in the direction that I know it's going to be at? And I think giving that pause just allows you to process a little bit, take the time you need to see the thing you need to see to make your decision, so that when you get to live play, it just happens, right? You see that ball, you see the setter take off, and you're like, I'm going to go shift. I'm ready to go block out of system now. We're going to block and touch this ball in a little bit different way.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think especially in the middle, but even for the outsides, and we talked about it in the blocking episode, is am I continuously being fluid with my base? And is my eye work, am I consuming all that information? And am I actively engaged in putting myself in a better position to be successful? And that's simple, right? Like you can just see, am I just standing there waiting to be reacting, or am I taking it all in and saying that, hey, all right, I can move here and now I'm going to be successful. I think the other thing in the middle too is, where am I relative to my closing with my pin?
Yeah,
I think that's another key thing too is, or did I make a decision, and this is about the IQ part, did I make a decision and saw the right thing where the ball was inside, my pin was out of position, and I took it upon myself to go and clamp down on the ball that's going angle. That's one of those positive outcomes of seeing film is, hey, I took it upon myself and made a different decision based on what I'm seeing, and you can celebrate that.
Yeah, I think the other piece in that realm is if you're a middle, pause on that dig so you can start to get a grasp of hitting routes, right? Where your opponent's running, is somebody coming inside, and how does that change? I think that's something that we can get bogged down on what we're doing specifically, but again, when we're thinking about IQ stuff and decision making or vision training in the middle, how do we expand our view, widen our view, and get our eyes through that net a little bit differently to see, all right, she's on a 3, she's coming in on a 6, and then we have a go to the outside. Is there a back row option that's going to dictate where I need to shift if I'm fronting or shading, or if I'm going to stay in that read? So I think just playing through those scenarios, there's a lot of information to be had. Pause the video so you can process it, and then pause it a little bit shorter and see if we can whittle down the amount of time it takes for you to ID what's running at you, and then how you can progress from there.
Mm-hmm. I think the last thing, and kind of attacking and blocking into that transition space, I think I always ask my athletes, where are you looking? Because in a lot of times in film, your head is moving, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I think you don't really know in the moment because you're just going in the moment. But if you can watch yourself in film where your head is at, there are times you lose complete visibility of the court, the ball, everything. Like you're looking to your points in other episodes, like at a spot. Where's the X?
Yeah.
And that's not conducive for you to be in the right place. You're just playing what you think you should do and not what the play and the ball and the situation is required for you to do. So I think watching yourself and where you're looking just by your head movements is also valuable.
There's a really interesting sports science when ESPN used to do those sports science breakdowns, but they would do vision tracking for like elite level athletes versus like your amateur.
Yep.
And the biggest difference is focus points, right? The elite level athlete knows what part of the body to look at to gain the advantage to do the thing to make the decision that makes them elite. Amateurs your eyes are kind of going all over the place. So I think film is a great way to start to train your eyes to see the things that you want them to see to make you more efficient and get to that next level. Also, really cool videos. You should YouTube
Yeah,
them
that's
if you
awesome.
haven't seen them. They're super cool. I think one of them's like Ronaldo going through like as he's dribbling into an attack of on a goal. It's like the things he sees getting around a defender. Where does he look? It's super interesting.
I'm gonna have to.
Yeah,
YouTube
really cool.
I love the idea though for blockers starting the film in a situation where they haven't run their route yet, and then pausing it after everyone's first step. And can you guess, or are there any tells on what's about to happen? And then pausing it 1 second later and seeing if there's any more tells that you can figure out on a combo or just a little slight change in the route, and seeing if you can identify those things early.
Or the setter for that matter too, right? Or there's any tells from the setter.
Yep.
So speaking of setting, when you're watching technical film on a setter, what are some of the things that you're really looking at to individually develop?
Yeah, well, the things I wish I would have watched more when I was watching my own film is, my tells. Like, is it obvious that I'm about to back set it? Or is it obvious that I'm about to run a 1 ball versus a go ball? And now there's really cool data on some film video apps where you can get the time difference between when the ball leaves your hand to when it's contacted by the outside, and what's your consistency level on setting a go ball in tempo? What's your consistency in tempo, really? So that's the stuff that I'd be watching right away is if I was playing against myself, would I be able to figure out where I was setting the ball before I had it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is exactly that. It's body neutrality. Yeah. Like, how am I getting to the ball? I think the next piece would be feet and square. Like, make sure that I'm not jumping to something that's going to eliminate options versus getting there. And then I would put a lot of focus on my like mid-system sets. That's typically where most people live. It's going to be that ball that's 8 to 12 feet off the net. am I getting square? Am I in the right position? Is my body neutral? And then am I keeping tempo on those balls, right? Those are the ones, if we start to move off the net, that tend to get loopy. Can we still run a go tempo from 12 feet? You know what I mean? In the way that we want to. And can I still set back in the same, to the tempo that we're trying to keep from 10 to 12 feet? I think that's a huge way to watch and figure out for you where that line is. Like, at what point can I no longer set the tempo that I would like to? Is that at 14, 15 feet? Is it when I'm pushed back because I'm not strong enough to get it all the way out there? You know what I mean? You can learn a lot about yourself from how you have set tempo from various locations on the court.
And I think as a setter, I love that, because I think how your body is drives the consistency of your delivery of the ball, right? And if you're not balanced, and if your weight is going one way or another, your hands are inconsistent, it drives to an inconsistent delivery, then that's not what you want as a setter. I think one thing that's an interesting variance to watching film individually is, as a setter, watch your hitters instead of yourself.
Yeah.
You learn a lot about how you're delivering a ball to your hitters and what they're seeing as success just by watching them. Are they expecting a 0 tempo and you're setting a 1 tempo? Are you setting the ball inside or outside based on their approach angle? Those are the type in the middle. Are you expecting them to be closer to you, further away from you? These are things that if you watch the others, because you're the one that is the distributor. It's unique of the other roles in setting or in volley, but you can watch others to really say, how am I doing, or what do I need to do differently to then make others successful?
Great point, because the whole time I thought I was just setting dimes. Wasn't my fault.
Never put up a bad ball.
Wasn't my fault.
They were doing one of these the whole time. No?
I'm pretty sure when I was watching myself set, I was like, "Oh, that's a cool leg sleeve. I'm keeping that one." But that's a great point. I think I think it just opens up future conversations with your hitters, being like, "Hey, I saw this," or not even saying that you saw it, but just saying, "Hey, I'm gonna look to go a little bit more here, and you let me know if you like that ball," because you're witnessing it on film.
And sometimes our hitters don't know what, like, they think that's the ball that you're wanting to.
Right.
Sometimes it's not even a communication gap. It's just the fact that there's some realization there that you have to put yourself in the other person. And as a setter, as a leader of the team, and as a person distributing every ball, I think it's important to say, all right, hey, I'm trying to set this ball. They're getting this ball. Yeah. Hey, I'm going to do this differently for you and see if that works. And I think that's that's the beauty of film, is that allows you to kind of put it in the lab, understanding what things that you can do to improve as yourself. But then again, setting wise, you improve yourself is going to improve the others that you're distributing to. Then test case those things out in training, and see what works.
For sure. That's good stuff.
And then lastly, around defense and passing, Mark, what are the cues really you're looking at individually, technique wise, from defense and passing?
Technically, we're trying to determine, like, am I tracking the ball well? So at what point am I starting my move? Is that move taking me in the direction of where that ball's floating? I think another good piece is how early is my platform getting formed relative to that ball coming in. Earlier platform, the more easy and simple those adjustments can be that are going to lead to hopefully a better contact and a better angle. The last piece technically I like to look at is body position at physical contact. So if I'm going to pause, I'm probably clicking, like, I'm going to pause before that ball gets to the net. Have I started my move, right? Have I picked up some visual cue that's allowing me to track depth or sideways one way or another? Then I'm going to pause. I'm going to convert my attention to me as the passer. I'm going to pause as soon as my platform's locked out, and I'm going to see how far away the ball is from me. If it's getting kind of right on top of me, I probably need to think about how I can get it set a little bit earlier. And then I'm pausing at contact to see what my body positioning is doing, and more specifically, what my hips are doing. I think that's the biggest indicator of platform adjustment, is if my hips fly through and my shoulders come up, now my angles are going to be off the net. I'm automatically going to pass that to 10 or 12 feet. So we talk about letting our pits breathe, but creating a little bit of space, Keep that spine curved forward, right? What are those body position keys that your coach has talked to you about that we're trying to exemplify each time we go take a pass? I think technically those are some of those initial things passing that I like.
Yeah, I think especially with club kids, like just what you said earlier, like not making any negative steps before maybe having to go forward, not making any – see this a lot, not going at the serve and then realizing that it's deep. So just watching the early process movements of a serve right as it comes off a server's hand, and what are we doing early to potentially put ourselves in a situation where we're going to feel super late going the opposite way in which we just moved.
Sometimes I think defensively and passing wise that when you're watching film yourself, sometimes it's okay to watch a bigger chunk sometimes. And I think specifically in the passing sense, if you're a primary passer, if you're a libero especially, right? And how did you change through that set or through that match? Because coaches are smart. They're going to identify where they can score, they can get you out of system so they can put themselves in an advantage. And have you adjusted, right? Did they start serving short drops, and then they went deep drops? And did you stay in the same base? Did you adjust your base? Is it, in those specific scenarios, are you identifying, how you can be successful based on what you've experienced in the past? And I think the specialized roles, especially, it's your accountability to do that one thing better than everybody else. Libero, setting, and those are the two primary ones. I like you have to be able to learn, adjust, because the team is depending on it. And so I think film helps that tremendously.
I agree.
What else did we not cover? We talked about technique, IQ, from an individual standpoint. What else?
I think watching film as a coach, so not watching it as a player, watching yourself, but maybe planning for what's coming or what's going on with your team. I think as any coach should write scouting reports against himself, try to have a neutral view of your team, and that might open up some different thoughts about your next practice or what little layers maybe you want to add into your offensive, defensive schemes. But if you're a club coach trying to prep a scouting report, like film is all over the place on how accessible that is.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's tournament film where the film's all from the side, so it's a tough watch, honestly. There's stuff on YouTube. Sometimes teams put their stuff on YouTube, which is crazy. That's where I find That's where I find a bunch of my opponents' films is on YouTube. Like just throwing it out there for me. Thank you.
So keep doing that.
Yeah. Hopefully those guys aren't listening. But so that's nice. And I think when you're watching film and you're only going to see this team for 2 sets potentially, you got to be careful how much time you're diving into just one team. You're about to play a team after that and then a team after that in a 4-hour span. So I think just trying to find simple themes and not get too complex with your scouting report is the way to go about it. So you're not just devoting all of your team's brain energy on just one team, and then you forget what you have to do the team after that. So our strategies in scouting teams this past year was just figure out who scores the most points and what do they like to do and what do they like to do when they make mistakes. And that's been really helpful for our teams. And usually those types of themes repeat themselves when we play a different team. Yeah. And usually when someone gets blocked in club, a lot of people are tipping and rolling after. That's been something that our teams have been good about communicating after we block someone. We do our little cheer, and then afterwards we're saying, hey, let's look out for the tip and roll shot. And then if both outsides kind of play the same, like let's talk about that with our team. Like, hey, the outsides are going to do this and not just make it so specific on just one person. Unless you do play an outside that is worth talking about a little bit differently. So,
and I think the more you watch over time, like the more of those universal tendencies that you're going to see, or more distribution percentages. I guess that's the thing that I come back to is like the more volleyball I watch, I know middles get 10% of all the offense. Pins are going to be, or your outsides are going to be around 25. You know what I mean? Like you can you can kind of piece together what people are going to do and build almost uniform game plans. It will help as you're structuring your defensive systems or your block schemes or whatever. Like if you just continually watch film, you're going to be like, oh, everyone does this. Like this is a natural tendency of all. And then we should account for that by X adjustment.
And that's been really helpful when you have like a pool play schedule. You can say, hey, this team's going to be outside heavy. We're going to have to block line. This team's going to run some big. Let's look out for that. This team's going to run a bunch of go ball slides. And that's going to be something worth talking about, you know?
Yep.
I think watching film as a coach is super helpful, not just to prepare your team, but I think at times it's how the message that you translated, did it land with your team? So, hey, we're going to do against this team, we're going to do this offensive strategy and this defensive strategy. We're going to stop this person and we're going to run, we want to focus on pushing the middle because that's our advantage. Okay, so we know what the strategy is. Let's watch the match. The stats will tell us one thing, but the match will also tell us how did we execute upon it. And was it the why that it just got blown up because we couldn't pass? There's different whys. Sometimes the why, and I've had this, is that whatever I tried to articulate, it didn't capture, right? And it's like, okay, I can take a step back. I can self-reflect and say, I can deliver this next time in a different way to hopefully it translates better to the team so that they can have a better success rate.
For sure. I love that.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd say the one other thing outside of coaching that I think is a huge benefit of watching film is it's going to make you a better teammate, especially if you're not on the court, right? If you're watching film regularly, you're training your vision. You're training your eyes to get away from the ball, to get through the net, to see the things that you need to see for your position. So if you're off the court, you should be doing the same thing, right? I'm treating that like I'm watching film. I got my eyes through the net. I'm checking where off block is. And that allows me to give some IQ feedback to my position group in a little bit more effective way than standing over there and doing your cheers and rah-rah. Like, I'm all for rah-rah. That's great. Is it going to help? How is that going to help us score that next point? And you can pump somebody up and give them their outshot just as easily as you can do a toe touch or whatever your cheer is. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think that's a good way to kind of sum up is we talked about coaching, who's involved in the game. You have all the positions that are involved in the game. But if you're a bench player and you're watching film, let's say you're in a collegiate program, you're not on the court yet, there is a lot of merit in watching the match play, even if you're not in it. Because if you're invested in your position team, your position role, like you are at one point maybe in that role. So you need to visually and mentally put yourself in there and treat that person, whether it's Frank for me, I'm going to treat Frank and say, hey, I'm Frank. I'm going to do the same things we just talked about in the setting space. I'm going to do that as if Frank is me. And I'm going to, consume that information so that I can give Frank the best feedback that I possibly could. And then once I'm in Frank's, he can do the same thing for me. And
it helps you be prepared when your number gets called, right? Everybody is one ankle turn away from being a starter. So the more engaged you can be helping that person, the more prepared you're going to be when it is your turn to step on the court.
For sure.
100%. 100%. Well, I love this episode because from a film perspective, it's something that is so available now in this market. I mean, back when we were, playing in high school and club, it wasn't as available. It was, the dads and the moms and the grandmas and grandpas throwing up their tripod way too early and getting in the way. But now it's like legit level film that you can leverage both from a club and obviously from a collegiate perspective. So it's a tool. Continue to leverage it. Take the opportunities. Also consume yourself with the positives and make yourself a better player. With that, Blockheads.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Triple Blockheads. Make sure you like and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so that you never miss an episode.